Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the good news, the bad news, and the other shit. Conspiracy Wednesday edition. The good news, the bad news, and the other shit. Conspiracy Wednesday. But then again. Hey, you guys, one topic for today, Conspiracy Wednesday. Just one. But it's big enough and bad enough and broad enough that we got to talk about it. We were sent over to us by PMC. And it's all about this whole issue of voter ID laws. Okay? These are the laws that people are passing that have to do with having voters to show some form of ID when they vote. Now, it's not new. Controversy's been going on for a while, and we're actually going to summarize this, how long it's been going on. But for those of you who are younger, what we said earlier, we had to remind you, these types of laws were used historically to prevent black people from voting.
Right.
That's part of the issue and the controversy, is that they were used previously. Big part of what was done to try to keep black folks from having access to the polls during the days of the civil rights movement. Now, we knew that a lot of our chat room would be up on this, because remember I told you PMC sent this over.
Right.
And he sent it over because the first story he sent had to do with Pennsylvania. You know, he's in Pittsburgh, he's right out near Pittsburgh. So this law, supposedly, let me tell you about this law. You can take a look, search it out. Pennsylvania voter ID law. Now, they say it's going to disenfranchise. That means make it so that people cannot vote. Approximately 10% of the state's voters, Vic, check this out. Pennsylvanians are now required to show government-issued photo ID in order to cast votes. This is thanks to a GOP-supported voter ID law.
Right.
Okay, that was signed by Governor Tom Corbett.
Right.
Now, supporters say it was a simple measure designed to combat voter fraud. And then we're going to talk about voter fraud and how common that is.
Right.
But it turns out that the law may affect over 750,000
voters, right?
Yeah, voters. Check it out. According to the report from the state that compared voter registration rolls with the Transportation Department ID databases, more than 750,000 registered voters in Pennsylvania have no driver's license.
Right.
That's 9.2% of the state's 8.2 million voters. Okay? If you look at certain cities, like, for example, Philadelphia, right?
Right.
That's the state's biggest city, okay? It's Philadelphia. Then you have up to 18% of the city's population would now become ineligible to vote.
So
these laws always affect certain people more.
Well, yeah, and everybody knows that the numbers have already been there. The Census Bureau basically, you can extrapolate when those numbers have always existed. It's that somebody was, let's just say this, more strategic enough to go and say, let me institute law with numbers that's always had disenfranchised voters for a number of different reasons, right?
Well, that's what you would have thought, but that's not what they said. The governor previously maintained that 99% of Pennsylvania voters had proper ID already.
Right.
Not true.
Okay.
Not true.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what happened was some people were saying that it was part of the controversy, was that people were using it to try to get Mitt Romney, get a better presentation, better voting, an election. Yeah. Even though we often say we think the election is a slam dunk and that they try to fake and make it look like it's a competition.
Yeah.
Everybody got their own views.
Yes.
But anyway, supposedly GOP House Majority Leader Mike Terzai made a comment that people said. And the comment was, and I quote, "Voter ID is going to allow Mitt Romney to win the state of Pennsylvania. Done." Now people say, well, what are you saying?
Right.
You saying voter ID going to help Mitt Romney win,
Well, doesn't this, and let me just say this. If you're leading the pack by a wide margin, say in surveys or what have you, and there's enough votes for you to say we're doing comfortable, then you really don't go out and chase to invalidate votes. Usually the loser is the one that's trying to go and gain more votes.
Right.
So I always say it depends on who's driving the bus for this effort.
Right.
So to me, when the Bush election had the Chad thing, wasn't their purpose by being in the lead to discount votes?
Exactly. It always is.
I'm already saying
it's
always the position of who's leading the effort.
Well, that's what they're saying. People have charged, and this is what's being argued, that voter ID laws disproportionately target students, minorities, and elderly voters,
right,
who tend to be Democratic. Now, let me talk about this whole thing of voter fraud.
Right.
How common that is. That's the part that really is funny.
Right.
When you go look at it, according to listen to their own data, voter fraud, they have almost very, very little cases. According to some sources, it's more common to have exploding toilet and deaths by television.
Right.
In fact, they actually say UFO sightings are more common than voter fraud.
Right. Look. I'll say this. We're not there to sit back and disqualify the numbers. We just know that there's a bunch of money thrown into this effort. And even if you have the worst candidate, whether it's on the Republican side or Democratic side, they have to pull in all their resources, because you just can't have what they call, we have no candidates, let's not put no money into this particular competition between who's going to be the next president. So to me, I always say the money is in full effect. Now, whether we qualify by all these conditions that exist, I said, so where was everybody between year 1 after the president-elect and year 3 before this election? Oh, nobody really cared. So now all of a sudden we're supposed to raise the temperature because he says, guess what? I said, so I see what we're all political within that year of the new election, right?
Well, here we go. That's something to do with it. Take a look at this piece from RT.com.
Uh-oh.
Hold on, where's my audio?
That's okay. Yeah, that picture kind of sets the tone right now. That's okay. You wonder if it's a silent video.
Yeah, maybe it is. No.
Bear arms.
There's only a certain number of things that were put in the Constitution.
Now I'll fix it. I'm sorry. You know, see, it's new sometimes.
It is a right transcribed into the very fabric of our culture and our Constitution. The right to bear arms.
There's only a certain number of things that were put in the Constitution by the founders. And they put a right to bear arms in the Constitution for a couple of reasons. First of all, they were just finished a violent revolution. You know, they overthrew an oppressive government.
And to understand just how many people enjoy that freedom today, here's a look at background checks for firearm purchases on what is typically one of the busiest days of the year for potential gun buyers, Black Friday. The previous record was in 2008, with just under 98,000 background checks. This year, the record was broken for checks in a single day, with 129,166, a 32% increase from 2008.
I think right now the reason so many people applied for firearms licenses is they were afraid the Obama administration was going to take active steps to ban them.
And whether or not that's true, the gun-loving portion of America remains a group whose affection many would-be politicians often try to win.
We're Republicans. We should be better than that.
And I'll take dead aim at the cap-and-trade bill.
As the Second Amendment is increasingly celebrated and the number of gun owners expand, the right to vote, listed in the 15th, 19th, and 26th Amendments, is narrowing. And new policies and initiatives mean as many as 5 million eligible voters will lose that right to choose the next person.
This is what PFC was saying.
To occupy the White House.
Oh, yeah.
14 states which represent 2/3 of the Electoral College votes needed to win the presidency, have already passed several measures. These include restrictions on where people can register to vote, less time for early voting, and stricter laws requiring people to provide government-issued photo IDs.
African Americans or other racial and ethnic minorities are very heavily targeted. The poor, those who don't drive cars or have cars, are also very heavily targeted.
Hillary Shelton, Washington, D.C.'s NAACP director, says the policies harken back to the days of Jim Crow, bringing back old obstacles thought to be eliminated by the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
The most basic right of all was the right to choose your own leaders. The history of this country, in large measure, is the history of expansion of that right to all of our people.
A history now reversing itself with new laws also targeting convicted felons who have completed their sentences, have jobs, and pay taxes. In Florida, Iowa, Virginia, and Kentucky, anyone convicted of a felony has their right to vote denied permanently.
If the idea of prison is to rehabilitate,
that's a law that sounds like it's geared at certain people.
Prisons to be able to master the process of participating in our electoral process.
Troubling for many in Texas as well, where you can't use a student ID to vote, but you can use a handgun license. In the words of Governor Rick Perry, who signed the bill,
It's the integrity of every vote, that every vote counts.
The question for many others, though, how many votes won't be counted because they were barred from being cast? In Washington, Christine Frizzau, RT.
See, the whole thing is how it's used and how people are kept off the rolls, see? Now, let me just tell you some of the information that we got from, this was from Mother Jones. It's kind of interesting. It's a good, wonderful publication. Since 2001, you've had nearly 1,000 bills authored that would tighten voting laws. 1,000.
Right.
You've had 24 voting restrictions that have passed in 17 states just since 2011. The new laws could affect more than 5 million voters. Now, well, they say 179 out of the 270 electoral votes. Now, don't even get me started on the electoral college, because you understand that you don't actually get to vote for the person. You get to vote for the electoral. And you have to understand, when you go read, you can go read the musings of the founding fathers you want. They tell you they were worried about the common man affecting the workings of the government, and they did not think that the common man was intelligent enough, smart enough, and that his vote should not be allowed. They wanted that buffer between the common man. That's why you don't get one person, one vote. It doesn't really work like that.
I agree.
Because you have electoral college.
Right.
So that means they don't either do what you want or don't do what they want. But like I said, I think it's all part of the thing. Go on, Vic.
Well, no, I'm only saying, I know most of the time people are very deep in the specifics of something. And I'm saying this for a reason. When you hear people say, for example, I don't watch the news, I'm not into politics, what you're doing is indicting yourself to be disconnected from what's happening between one election and the next. Immediately at one particular election, when it's taking place, they are working on the next influential president nominee or president to come. They're already digging down deep to sit back and say, you know what, here's where our numbers are right now. There's a voice that's going through social media, Mario, that you have to agree with. You're getting a lot of people who are spewing out what they think. And it's more anger, disappointment. They feed off of that. So here's what's happening. Now, all of a sudden, we get in spin. When I say spin, I say, oh, so everybody right now, you're going, well, you know what? This is not fair. I say, well, you know, you can get involved in politics. You can get involved in what's going on. Then you won't have to wait till the year before election to go, this is unfair.
I agree. Even though I think the deeper you get into it, the more frustrating it becomes, because you start to feel like you have no impact.
But you have knowledge.
I started in college.
But you have knowledge.
You have knowledge, but you wonder if you have impact at all.
Yeah.
That's the one thing.
Now, here's the part, Mar. This is very important. You know, you're voice of reason.
I'm the radical leftist voice of reason.
Wait a minute.
I'm a fiscally conservative radical.
Right.
That's how I describe myself. I'm a fiscally conservative radical leftist.
Okay. Just say that you was explaining that to somebody in South Beach, the Bronx, or Compton.
Because I don't like to waste money on shit that don't work.
Thank you. So no,
but I'm a radical leftist, but when you spend your money, I'm going to try to spend it on things that work.
Right.
Not just waste money.
Right. And then my whole point is that I think what people are saying is what you've already said. They don't waste their time putting money where they don't get a return investment from, whether it's a vote, money, or otherwise. The empowerment zone is exactly the same. When the middle class goes away, Mario, is it you are on the left side, on the right side? And guess who they're catering and which group wants to be considered the elitist group, the one that got the money?
Well, you know.
Okay, so I'm telling people here, I said,
that's what it's all about.
Get the knowledge, have your opinion, don't wait till 2 months before
and
the
get
election.
you a gun. Some guns. I'm sorry. Anyway, block the vote. Since 2001, 1,000 bills have tightened voting laws, Vic.
Yeah.
Okay, now, the past 2 years, the 5 battleground states have been Florida, Iowa, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That's PMC out there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Take a look at this map. This is off of Mother Jones. It's really interesting stuff, you guys. Now, check it out. In terms of card-carrying Americans, since 2011, 34 states have passed laws requiring voters to show photo ID. Okay?
Yeah.
It is estimated that 2.2 million voters did not vote in 2008 because they did not have the proper ID.
Why?
What, see?
Yeah. See, the part is that okay. It's not like it's a surprise.
Well, it's so interesting. 12 states have new laws requiring birth certificates, but only 48% of women have a birth certificate with their current legal name on it.
Hey, do you have to have a driver's license to go in the Army?
No.
Oh,
hell no. You don't have to drive.
You know what? My bad. My bad.
You don't have to have a you know what? You could get in the Army. You could be in there and shoot, die before you can drink. You can't even go to get a drink. 21, you be 18, and then Afghanistan.
Yeah, and why do I sit there and say the soldiers all day long got your back? All day.
Well, this is what they're
day.
saying about PMC was saying though about discouraging voters. Okay, now this is how they break it down.
Okay.
Last time you had 75 in the 2008 election. You had 75 million eligible voters. Who did not vote.
Right.
75 million. Okay?
Got it.
All right. Of that 75 million, over 80% of them were not even registered to vote.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's a lot.
Okay?
That's a lot.
All right. So they're showing that 12% of minority voters reported that they registered through voter drives. That's twice the rate of white voters. In other words, when they have people out there registering people to vote, they mostly get minorities.
Right.
Okay? Now, since then, Florida and Texas made some laws that you can't have those drives.
See this one.
You can't
see what I'm
You
saying.
know what, y'all? see to old black people, this looks so obvious. It's the same old shit. You know what? So you think that you can turn around and use the same old stuff that you used against black folks.
Right.
Now you want to use it against Latinos, and ain't nobody supposed to say this is the same old shit.
What are they doing?
This is the same old shit.
Dude, let me say this, Mark. Would you believe that watch this, and I'm just saying this, would you believe those who are considered disenfranchised or those who fall under those categories are more in support of Obama or Romney? Why would you go after the ones that go, well, Obama's not going after them.
Because you have to make it look like a fake-ass election. Because it is a fake-ass election.
It is.
Because Romney's a fake-ass candidate.
My whole point.
And it allows the president to just be better than them. See, this is the whole thing that's so amazing. The president doesn't have to be good.
No.
He just has to be better than the sorry-ass Republicans. That's the conspiracy.
Right.
You know, that's so much bullshit.
This is a race to win. And it's taking no prisoners.
Because they already know it's already won.
That's all it's
And let's
about.
wait and see. Now, all these people say Obama, in the last term, he's going to be different.
Right.
Can I just slap you upside your head lightly? Not even enough to cause pain. Just enough for the emphasis. Like, pop. When he doesn't do that. I want to be able to do him on the air, get him lined up. Just pop. That's for being an idiot.
Wait.
Stupid dum-dum. Pop.
So when
You believe that old bullshit. Pop. There's no president. I wouldn't look. You go look yourself.
None.
There's no president in the history of the whole United States that people think changed in the last term.
No.
Not one.
No.
Never. Never's happened.
No.
There's no one who they even think did it ever.
Right.
Okay.
Now let me ask you something, because like I said, you have a little bit more. You may have a little bit more detailed information.
Oh,
if there
man.
was a president that they thought was good, even though it was not under the time that we flourished, because they put those term limits in. Roosevelt. Would you
That was
consider
right.
him a better
It looks
president?
like it.
Does he
It
look
looks like it.
Does he? Okay, now let me just say this.
It looks like he may have been the last one. Ike. What about Ike?
I'm just saying, you
Ike
guys.
didn't do with social issues.
Right. So
Everybody I like Ike.
wait a minute.
Ike.
Wait a minute. Some of you guys are going like, who? But let me just say this. If you had to rate them, watch this. I'm going to rate them now. Roosevelt, Kennedy, Ike, Reagan, Obama. Who's number 1 and number 2 in your mind?
Now what?
Rate them as presidents who probably did the closest to representing all the people, even though presidents.
Oh man!
Come on,
none
now,
of
I'm
them
just
represent
saying.
all the people.
Okay, the closest example of inclusion, even though there were
What's my
collateral
choices?
damage.
What's my choice?
Roosevelt, Ike, Kennedy, Robert, or John. I'm sorry, John, Reagan, Obama.
It's bad because it depends who the people you count as who the people, and some of them didn't even deal with anything. You know, Ike was kind of in a time of prosperity.
Yes.
Reagan too. They try to give him credit for it. It wasn't him who did that.
Okay, but how long did Roosevelt serve? How many years?
Three. I would have to say it's Roosevelt.
And he had to go through the Depression, right?
Because he still took leadership on a bunch of things. Yeah.
Was a lot of social programs.
A lot of social programs.
So
he had to deal
right.
with all of that and
Okay.
the war and a lot of racial issues and all of that.
So if you had to rate,
I would have to say Roosevelt because I don't think
right.
the president is done. And the president presents a wonderful image that I love for youth to see
Right.
because it affects children, it affects young folks, it affects black
that's
folks,
right.
so that the children see these images and they strive. He's a wonderful speaking point.
Yes.
But he lacks substance.
That's something different that
But he's also no different than any other president.
Right.
Now, the thing is that for a lot of you, that's good enough. See, remember, I see what the drawing line is? For a lot of black folks, we've already said, he only has to be as good
right.
as the worst of the white folks.
Right.
That's what you've already decided.
Right.
So you don't care whether they're legitimate or not.
Right.
You just want to have a black president. I can even understand that to a point.
Right.
I really can because that's why I said we don't give our elders a hard time, right?
No, I don't.
Because they
and
so
I
proud of Obama. You can't go mess with the old black folks. They so proud to have a black president. They don't care if he does nothing but sit there.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm trying to use, and it's hard to use comparisons. It's like comparing a basketball team 20 years ago against a professional team today.
Right.
I'm saying back in the day of our forefathers or our wonderful ancestors, even going back to Roosevelt, did they feel more hope with the Roosevelt and the social programs that were instituted, more so positive about that influence than, say, the Obama or Reagan
Oh,
of
I
its
wonder
day?
because there were times when black folks were actually doing better.
Yeah.
I mean, economically, you had
Right.
a distinct black middle class.
Relative.
Yeah, that's why it's relative. You wonder, you guys, because that's not the case today.
Right.
Even though I must admit, I love the fact of the images. I have to say that. And like I said, you can argue. You can make an argument.
Right.
That just having a black president, even if he sits just sitting there, is good enough.
Right.
You can make that argument.
But-
I don't buy into that argument, but I understand the argument.
Let me say
I'm not
what-
even going to hate on you for having that.
This is what's going to happen, and everybody's going to go retro on this because it's the same feeling. It's not going to be there. If, and it looks likely, he goes to second term, you will reflect and look back on what was accomplished as it relates to all of you economically, because the economics is affecting everybody.
Like Clinton.
Right. So it's going to hit
And
you.
black folks
It's gonna
love
hit you.
Clinton. When you look back, how do you feel?
Right.
You got nothing from you guys. You got nothing from Bill. Bill did nothing for you, okay? Have you finally woken up to that, black America?
It's
as
done.
much as y'all love Bill Clinton,
It's done.
have you woken up to the fact that he did nothing?
Right.
Okay.
It's not, and, and this is not.
I'm just saying, what he did, he played the
Right.
saxophone and he showed an open caring for black people.
Right.
And that was moving, and I was touched as a black person. And so, like I said, we a cheap date. We will lay down and
Right.
open up our legs. We a cheap date.
I
They
don't
don't
know
have
about
to
the
do
open up
much
legs.
for
Wait
us.
a minute.
We
Okay,
will
but-
come. We will come and give it up to you.
Wait, now what we're saying,
We a cheap date.
and everybody knows this for the most part, or those who you don't know. The heartbeat of America's enterprise system is by small business enterprises. Has the small business enterprise sector flourished under this current administration, or Forget about this one. Look back and say, when did it have its greater success? If you're an entrepreneur, if you're an independent business owner, there's employment that's a big stickler. But employment is drawn for small business and large business enterprise. So when you start looking at that, you may look at it from a different sphere. I look at it from the enrichment of small business enterprises because they grow into larger enterprises. Where is that in comparison to its president?
Okay, what's interesting, it really looks like when it comes to the money, you guys, they do almost the same thing. Right. Now, what do I mean by that? If you actually go back and look, they agree on about 90% of the budget items all the time. In fact, I did a research on this years back.
Right.
And I think if you go look at the budgets, that they almost historically agree with almost 90+% of the budget. All the budget stuff you hear, all the dog and pony show, is over less than 10% of the money.
Right.
So to me, when you have any group of people who agree on even 75% of the stuff, they agree, right?
Right.
So you have our political bodies, Democrats and Republicans, who agree on 90% of the money.
Right.
Does that not tell you they're the same people? See, to me, I say they're the same. See, one says, no, they're not the same. And I say they say different stuff, but they agree on 90+% of the money.
All day, baby.
They are right together and on the money. Clinton finished up everything Ronald Reagan started. John Sununu wrote the NAFTA. He was on the news today. So Clinton finished, and Obama's doing everything that the conservatives, see what's happening, the Republicans, they can't really complain about, because when it comes to the money, Obama did what everybody wanted, what they wanted too. He did all the bailouts. He did all of what the white man's welfare, which was those bailouts of all those big companies.
Right.
That's what I call the white man's welfare.
Right.
They could have bailed out the workers, but they bailed. So we bailed out when we said they were no too big to fail, that's socialism.
That's right.
The Republicans and the Democrats bought in that, didn't they? Didn't they both buy into the whole oil spill?
Yes.
Obama's telling you to go vacation. Yeah, and then you go down to the Gulf to eat seafood. Even if the president tells you. I said, Mr. President, asking the American public to go vacation at a toxic oil spill is not wise. It's not good judgment.
No.
It's politicianing at its worst.
Now, I got another one for you, because I think we always have to, it's all relative. There's different categories. If you had to compare as it relates to big corporate enterprise and presidents being the best presidential president, you know what that means, being presidential, between Reagan, Obama, Bush, and Clinton, who's number one and number two?
They're all big business presidents.
Yeah, I know, but there's
probably Reagan.
Reagan right now has
remember
been the
Reagan
one,
took on when they were going to strike.
That's right.
He came out
He
just
martial
crushed,
law to
just
the air
crushed
traffic
the
controllers.
just crushed that strike.
And I was working at a company that dealt with unions, and they said, let's open the door to step on the unions. And guess what? Vacationing. When he did that,
that's right.
20, 30 days later,
telling you,
I got my pay
That's
slip.
right. And when they watch Reagan when he was governor of California. See, everybody, okay?
They're asking you right now.
Who am I voting for? I'm going to go get drunk. I'm going to go get drunk.
No, wait a minute, Mark.
See, I don't know what I want to. I want to know. I may want to see. Here's the thing. I voted for Obama the first time because I wanted the joy of voting for the first black president.
Right.
Now, it's a difference. Do I want to vote for the first underperforming black president? You know what? I decided I'm waiting for the first female president, but I really want the first lesbian president.
Wait a minute.
And then you have the first gay male president. None of them will do shit either. None of them.
Well, okay.
The first Latin president.
You want to bring
first
back
Asian.
You want Sarah Palin back?
Huh?
Sarah Palin.
Yeah. Oh. You know, by the way, they totally dissing her.
Oh, yes.
The Republicans are totally dissing her. I want the first gay president.
Okay.
That's the one I want.
Wait a minute. Now, I'm sorry.
I want the first. I want the first lesbian
I
president.
have to remove Mario from the platform of being an adult.
Because they're not going to do shit either.
Wait a minute.
So we can talk about them. They're not gonna
wait a minute.
The gay president ain't going to do shit for gay folks.
Wait a minute.
It's not a goddamn thing.
Wait a minute.
You're going to get the first handicapped president. Won't do a damn thing for handicapped people.
Wait a minute. First of all, the mind is working and not necessarily the body parts have to. Here's the quote. Mario, they want you to go speak. And you're going to go speak at Spelman, Tuskegee, Howard.
I want
and
the
they
first...
want you to address the young people coming up, 19, 20-year-olds, and they're talking about voting, and you sit back and say, you must vote. You're going to say that, aren't you? Oh, don't you dare sit here and say you're going to tell them.
In a college, you get to have I think you should vote because it helps to prove that it doesn't do shit. You know what? And that was told to me by a young person who said, I vote because I think just to prove it doesn't do shit.
Wait.
And I kind of vote for this.
Wait a minute.
I think it controls the crumbs. Your vote controls the crumbs from the table. Your vote controls whether or not you get an extra street pavement, a little afternoon basketball.
Think of all those
anything that they give little poor people, little crumb snatching bitches. Here's what you get from us today. They throw the crumbs out on the street, and we run and lick them up from the ground. I got a crumb. I got a crumb. I got a crumb. So that's what your vote gets you. Your vote gets, because you know when it comes to anything real, they don't give a shit about your vote.
So now wait a minute.
Invading other countries, how they spend the money, they don't care about your damn vote.
Wait a minute. You guys, you picture
They're
what
not
I
even
picture?
going to ask you.
He's standing on the stage in front
I
of
say
these
be
bright
a radical
minds, and
anarchist.
Wait a minute. They step back. This is the answer they're going to have.
Anarchy.
You know, I left college to get away from my parents complaining and bitching, and I seemed like I went straight into the university where they recruited you to continue the philosophy we have at home about you young people. That's not the issue. The issue is you're not inspiring them to.
I'm saying anarchy inspires shit. I'm trying to make you aware. When you get aware, you ain't gonna be inspired. You gonna be scared.
Wait a minute.
Shit.
Wait a minute.
You ain't gonna be inspired. You're gonna be fucked up. Once you understand what's going on out there, you're gonna be one depressed motherfucker. I'm sorry. You ain't gonna be like enlightened. You gonna be like, first, you gonna have to go get drunk and say, damn, the world's that jacked up, Mario. Now, after you get over it, after you get over the drunk, you hang over.
Right.
You finally get calm.
Right.
Then we start to think about what we want to do to impact this world, because whether or not it's that way or not, we still going to struggle against it, right? In other words, I look upon it the way I look at evil. The Lord allows evil to exist for a reason.
Of course.
For us to struggle against it. So I'm going to struggle against this, even though at times it looks, Vic, like you trying to stop a tidal wave.
Mario,
I still got to struggle against it.
I sit there and say, what is the 300 plus years or 400 plus years of struggle to get the right to vote? I said, you got to make that up for all the people who perished, who went against the. So the biggest complaint is that we just don't like the person in charge.
It shows you how smart. It shows you how brilliant and smart and evil so many of the forces to be that are out there that can have you struggle for 300 years or whatever to get a vote. That doesn't mean shit. They like were laughing at you the whole time. Come get the vote. Come get the vote. Come get the vote. Come get the vote. Oh yeah, it's gonna help you. It's really gonna help you.
This man is
and then the vote came out and didn't do shit. Like I told you, the vote allows you to control the crumbs.
Right.
That the master throws on the ground. So when that's what the vote is for.
When
what
Mario
crumb you get.
visits its roots and hits the cemetery where his people, the great grandfather and mother slaves, he's gonna be speaking to him. Says, you know,
some of them gonna say, I knew it was a fake. I knew it was a trap all the goddamn time.
I tried to carry on and I couldn't.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the good news. Bad news. Conspiracy. We didn't promise you answers. No, PMC, you were right to set the topic. Thank you, PMC. Talk about it. You knew Trigger Mario to go off. That's what the point.